Hi, it's Rob here from Yamaha RGX-1203s channel. I recently got as a gift from my dad a Yamaha RGX1203s, which came off of Reverb. Now, I'd been looking at this ad for more than a year before finally came through with the goods. Now, the build date is October 1987. Now, the great thing about this guitar, it has a maple mahogany 5-ply neck through construction with apparently older body wings according to the manual, and 3 single coils, which is interesting for what's meant to be a rock guitar. In addition to this, it has a direct drive switch on board, and in terms of controls, also has one 250k volume and 2 250k tone pots. In terms of pickup specs, the bridge comes in at 6.73 km, so probably slightly hotter than a regular Strat. The middle 6.35 and the neck 6.33. And originally there were 4 colours available: metallic black, pearl white, candy apple red, and mellow, or sometimes referred to as salmon pink. Now, it does also have a 5-way switch, and the interesting thing is when you hit the direct drive button, as I was measuring the pickups, the output from the pickups actually changed. So the bridge changed to 8.5, the middle 8.3, and the neck 8.32. This is strange because these pickups are not technically humbuckers, and the direct drive apparently bypasses all the tone circuit. So without the tone, you do get a little bit more hotter output. And in terms of the sound, I'll try and indicate when I do have the direct sound thing pressed, and you can hear the difference. Now, in my journeys over the years, these models only made for 2 or 3 years, but I've seen candy apple red in my travels, as well as pink. It's popped up on eBay. There's probably not very many of the pink ones around, so if you do have a pink one, it's quite unique. And in terms of value, I've seen a couple come up on Reverb and even Facebook, even in Australia. One was recently sold for about $680. This one from a few years ago, mint condition, $860 Australian. And this custom one, which was flying around the internet for more than a year, I think, that sold for $1447. Now, that's the last advertised price. We don't actually know what the settled price was, so it could have been lower than that. So in terms of value, these things run anywhere from low 400s right up to $1,500 in terms of value, and they are made in Taiwan. They are not made in Japan. So the value and the build quality is great, but they are made in Taiwan under Yamaha's direction, which all my guitars I've got from Yamaha have been made in Taiwan, all fantastic. So don't let that put you off at all. This is my first impression straight out of the box. So first getting it, looks in amazing condition, like a mirror finish on the front of the guitar. There's a tiny scratch here that's gone all the way through the paint to the wood underneath, which is what I'm eventually going to do anyway, so I don't care about that. See, there's 2 fine tuning screws as well on the top that have been changed. Fret and the fretboard, a little bit dirty, some really old strings, so I'm going to have to change these ones as soon as I can. Flipping it over, back of it looks fantastic as well. Used to be a sticker stuck here on the back of the trem cover that's been taken off, and you can really see the sparkle effect in the paint. Made in Taiwan. No Japanese tuners or anything like that. They're just Yamaha branded in-house ones. And there's a little bit of a volute there at the back of the neck, so a bit of a comfort thing. This is a short scale guitar, so like a Gibson. If you look really carefully, you can actually see the 5-ply neck. You can see a diagram of the wiring, the output jack here, really loose. Hopefully that fixes any issues. The switch looks really good quality. It's the back of the bridge, 3 springs. You can see the multiple neck through wood just coming through here. It's a bit hard to see, but there's been a lot of dings. This is really soft wood back here, but it hasn't damaged the finish at all. The finish seems kind of thick. Back of the bridge. You load it. Just some other incidental scratches around here. As you can see, I'm using some rotor sound strings, and in terms of the length of the string, it doesn't have much left to go here. Tuned up with rotor sound 9 to 42 strings, playing fantastic, which you'll hear in the other sound demo. You can also see those stripes on the top from the multiply neck through. These frets are really low. They're very narrow and not very high. This guitar hasn't seen a lot of playing time, so I'm amazed that for a shredded guitar these frets are so small. I've used the StewMac fret polishing kit, and I've also used a bit of metal polish just to give them this shine. Right, so I'm going to have a go getting the paint off the body. So just get a little screwdriver here, and I've just been scraping just to reveal what it's like coming off. So once you do grab it, it tends to lift away from the body, but you do have to get in there and poke it fairly hard. This was after about 5 minutes of trying. Now, I love stripping paint. It's probably one of my favourite things to do, and as soon as I got the paint off the neck, I was super keen to get into it. So I started off by taping off all the sensitive parts of the guitar with frog tape, which is a paint you can just get from Bunnings, and then I started to work on the top, which was looking fantastic. This is a sort of wet down progress shot. You can see as on the back of the neck there's still some of that undercoat or that sealer left, and that stuff was absolutely terrible to get off. And then this is down to as close to bare wood as possible, so there's a definite colour change from that honey sort of colour down to this clean white look. If you look on the back, you can see that there's an older cutout, and then you can see the normal older followed by the middle maple chunk. But on the top, it's actually a little veneer over the top of it, which makes it really difficult to work with. I did a test run of the stains. On the left was my Purpleburst attempt, and on the right was where I'd gone from a blue to Purpleburst, like an ESP reindeer burst. and also had a go at doing the PRS Northern Lights, which was I'd seen done on another video. It didn't work out that well. This is the body all wet down, ready for its first stain. I really love the grain, how everything looked. A lot of people do keep these natural. There's some fantastic looking maple in the neck, especially when you get it right in the light. The grain, you can see the maple has taken it differently to the veneer, and this outer end grain's absolutely swallowed it up. So now I'm going to have to sand all this back. This is part way through. The purple's gone over the sanded back black, and it hasn't taken very well, so I'm going to beef up the purple a bit and hit it one more time on the top before sealing it off. This alder, because it's end grain, just absorbs so much so quickly, so I don't think I'm going to touch that at all. I thought the black would bring out the maple a bit better in the multiply neck, but it's mostly not being absorbed, unfortunately. Second coat of much better purple before the sanding sealer goes on. Damn, this black looks so good, I'm tempted to leave it. But I think purple's better. First coat of purple. Dig at the neck. Bit of flame you can see popping up in the maple just there, just on one side. Second load of purple. Really purple. I decided to use the Crimson Guitars High Build Guitar finishing oil. Before I started, I just did my final sand with 400 and wet it down. It looked absolutely amazing. This is probably where I finally realised I was sort of on the right path with regards to how the finish worked. On the sides was really dark. Once again, an end grain problem. This is with the first coat of sanding sealer. So you can see it's got that kind of matte finish. I allowed the sealer, Feast Watson's sanding sealer, to build up, just so I could still cut it down to that uniform level. This is after the first coat of oil, so hand rubbed with 600 grit sandpaper. I'll just turn the light on my phone just to show it through the camera. We're getting a lot of layers. There's not a lot of chatoyance in the alder, but you're getting something through the maple, which is looking really good. This is the second coat of the oil, so it's starting to build up now. I was doing it in quite warm weather as well. I found it didn't go off as much as you thought it would, or as quickly as you thought it would, so I'd come back and go again. And this is after 5 or 6 coats, so by that time, absolutely chuffed with the finish and the finished product. This is all fully assembled, back ready together, and that's how it was for the sound demo, which was in part 1 of the video. Now, I have changed the pickups on this guitar, so there will be a follow-up video to the first one. But overall, I hope you enjoyed watching this full strip prep and stain of the Yamaha RGX1203s, and stay tuned for some more content. Thank you. Bye. I'm just going to go through some of the specs on this model. So it's a 24 and 3/4 scale guitar, much like a Gibson. Love the string tension. It's very easy to bend and play on these strings. That's something I also like about Floyd bridges over fixed bridges, is you get that individual string tension, and to me it's perfect for my playing. It's also had a fret level on the crown, so even though the frets were really low before, it's ridiculous now. But it's an amazingly shreddy neck and really easy to play. This is a GFS little killer, so I've always been chasing a humbucker sound in the bridge for this guitar. It still does have the 250k pots, so it does sound a little funny, but it full on sounds like a humbucker, and it was only $25. And I've taken my 2 pickups from my other Yamaha, the RGX-TT, the reverse wound, reverse polarity Sinner and the neck Sinner, and put them in this guitar, and they sound fantastic. Because it's a neck through and it's got an ebony board, to me it's very bassy, but the sustain is fantastic. The bridge spacing on this model, the string spacing is 51mm, so that's very narrow. So that's like a German Floyd or a Goto 510 type bridge. So if you're trying to retrofit another bridge to this guitar, you just got to keep that in mind. And as a result of that, the strings don't line up exactly with the magnets that you can see in the middle two here. So whereas on a 53mm F-space bridge, these would line up exactly. The original nut was here, and it's a 33mm. It's super narrow, so I had to replace that because I love wide nuts and classical guitar sort of style nuts. So it was too cramped for me. So I've put on this Gibson wide spacing compensated nut, which, you know, not only stays in tune and sounds amazing, but fixes all the intonation issues you get with a modern guitar. Now, if you did want a wider nut on this, there is room to go wider, probably. You just have to center it perfectly so you don't sort of fly off the fretboard in certain spaces. But you can see down here the spacing. So maybe if you change the bridge out for a wider one down here, that would pull these strings up and make it, you know, sort of just like every other Yamaha RGX out there. The locking nut is behind the nut, and to me that's the best of both worlds, because you're getting the ability to fit like a compensated nut, and you get using the nut height, but also you got those clamps behind the string. So this is actually my preferred setup for a locking nut, and I love it. And there's a truss rod in here. It's got a lot of play in it. I mean, a lot of movement, and it's a bullet style truss rod, so keep that in mind. It has Yamaha branded tuners, and after so many years, it's starting to show a bit of wear. The Japanese ones had Goto branded tuners. These Yamaha bespoke bridges, I don't think there's anything wrong with them, but over time you can see that there starts to get a little indentation on the bridge, so you may need to sand that off to get the string indentation out. The strings will eventually wear through this. Sometimes these Allen keys break, but I haven't played this guitar in weeks, and it's still in tune, which is fantastic. But when you do like double stops and bends, the bridge does move up and down a bit. Cool thing about this bridge is you can actually do like B-bender style licks by pressing on the individual saddles. So if I go, you can get that sort of B-bender country type sound. The hardest thing on this bridge is actually adjusting the intonation. There's some little Allen keys at the back, and so not only do you have to unlock these here, which lock the saddle in place, you also have to then use it to wind the individual saddles forward and back, and you can see them there. Now, it doesn't have a very big bridge plate, but in terms of sustain, it sustains fantastically. And this is just how I have mine set up, so I don't like a lot of spring tension on the back here, and it's fantastic. I did try and fit a Coil back box, which is a trem stop, which works in forwards and backwards. Unfortunately, there's a little step down here, and so the unit actually doesn't fit here. So I'm going to probably fit something different, like a tremery, which I've got on one of my other Yamaha guitars, which would just make this stay in tune forever. So it'd be fantastic. Apart from that, this is the condition after about 8 months of wear. So the tongue oil is still fantastic. I did discover there's a massive amount of wood bog here. So this guitar was probably chosen not to be one of the ones that is a transparent finish, simply because it had like a massive knock in the wood just here. And you can see how this, I'm not sure it is a veneer, but it looks like a veneer has been slapped on the top, because there's such a difference between this grain and this grain here. Although some places it does wind up, but maybe that's just older and I'm just not used to dealing with it. So it looks fantastic. I taped this bit off so I could keep the original number and the Made in Taiwan sticker. In terms of electronic controls, it's got a 5-way switch. This used to be the center tap on and off, which goes from the cool to the hot winding on the pickups, but that now does nothing because we don't have that functionality anymore. And there's 2 tone controls. There's none for the bridge. There's one for the middle, and there's one for the neck. So you get those individual tone controls so you can dial them up.